The Isak saga has been heating up after both Isaac and Newcastle dropped statements yesterday. So let's listen to Mark Goldbridge talk about it and we'll respond to it.
Everybody, good morning and welcome to That's Football. I'm Mark Goldbridge and this is your latest football news. And breaking is definitely what's going on between Newcastle and Alexander Isak. Some sensational statements coming out from both last night. It's very much in the public court of opinion now. And to be honest, before I give my opinion, I suppose I better give you what Isak and Newcastle have said, because it's hard to see how this gets resolved. And I think at this point you probably have to start apportioning blame, but not in the place it should be. I think there's a massive sense of hypocrisy in certain aspects of the mainstream, some Newcastle pundits. Isak is not the villain in this piece for me. I think that Newcastle have played their part as well, and it's all posturing now for who's at fault. And like most things in life, there is blame to apportion on both parties. So this is what Alexander Isak had to say.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Mark there. It's definitely not Isak's fault. He's just doing what every player likes to do every summer. When the transfer window is open, that's always chaotic. Every player is trying to do the best for themselves. Yeah, even though you can say, yeah, he has a contract and whatever, but obviously you can definitely tell that there were promises broken on both sides, including, on Newcastle's part. So yeah, it's interesting. Let's carry on listening.
Proud to be recognised by my fellow professionals with a place in the PFA Premier League team of the season. First and foremost, I want to thank my teammates and everyone at Newcastle. I'm not at the ceremony. With everything going on, it didn't feel right. I've kept quiet for a long time while others have spoken. That silence has allowed people to push their own version of events, even though they know it doesn't reflect what's really been going on behind closed doors. The reality is that promises were made and the club has known my position for a long time. To now act as if these issues are only emerging is misleading. When promises are broken and trust is lost, the relationship can't continue. That's where things are for me right now, and why change is in the best interest of everyone, not just myself. So I think Isak there is basically expressing his feeling and his belief that his decision to leave Newcastle was not one that just was made a couple of weeks ago. It was made months ago. Newcastle's response to that is, we are disappointed to have been alerted to a social media post by Isak this evening. We are clear in response that he remains under contract and no commitment has ever been made by club official that Alex can leave Newcastle this summer. We want to keep our best players, but we also understand players have their own wishes and we want to listen to those views. As explained to Alex and his representatives, we must always take into consideration the best interests of Newcastle, the team and our supporters in all decisions. And we've been clear that the conditions of a sale this summer have not transpired. We do not foresee those conditions being met. This is a proud football club with proud traditions and we strive to retain our family feel. Alex remains part of our family and will be welcomed back when he's ready to rejoin his teammates. I'm not even a Newcastle fan and I find this massively irritating. So you've basically got a player that's saying, I've been told I could go, and that's the fact. Newcastle are saying, well, we wanted terms of that to happen and it hasn't happened, so you're probably staying. And I think that having watched football and consumed football for so many years, I refuse to jump into the hyperbole of opinion from ex-players, media, football fans of Isak is to blame, or Newcastle are to blame, or even Liverpool are to blame. I mean, I've even heard what Liverpool have got to do with this, I do not know. They want to sign one of the best strikers in the world and they're willing to play a British transfer record. Leave Liverpool out. All they're doing is saying we'll buy him. They've not unsettled him. He'd already told Newcastle he wanted to leave this summer. So Liverpool are there willing to pay what will be a very fair price. So this is between Isak and this is between Newcastle. I said yesterday I think he ends up at Liverpool. I still do. I can see the situation only getting worse. This is probably ill-advised of Isak to go public, but I would imagine that he's done it because of what Newcastle have just said.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Mark. There's no way Isak is staying at Liverpool now, and obviously you can't blame Liverpool. They're just, again, doing what every club would like to do. If you have a top player at another club, you want that player at your club. It's very simple. So yeah, I think bridges have been burnt, on Isak's side. So it's impossible for him to stay on at Newcastle, to be honest. So I don't know why Newcastle released that statement claiming he's going to they're going to make him stay. I don't believe that. I think they're just going to make themselves look even more stupid. But I think with the right offer from Liverpool, I think they will just accept it, man. There's too much chaos, and they need to move on with their season. To be honest, if they lose the next game, which is against Liverpool, my goodness, it's just going to be way worse. And I think that's when they will try to fast track the transfer and just try to move on with their lives, and so they can move and they can go for other targets. So yeah, it's interesting. Let's carry on listening to what Mark is saying.
Newcastle are probably saying, we don't feel that the deal can happen now, so you're going to stay. He's got 2 weeks, and I think he's gone public because he feels like he's trapped. He's in a golden cage, whatever, and they're locking it away. So I think it's a public statement of, look, I'm not happy, and I don't want to do this, but I'm going to go public on it. And then Newcastle are going, well, the terms aren't going to be met, so you're going to stay, so you better just calm down. It's a bloody mess. And ultimately, this has happened in so many different ways with so many different clubs over so many different years. And essentially, Newcastle are doing exactly the same with Wizza. And they've done it with other players. And we can all list off players that Newcastle have done this to the other way around. And we can all list off players that have done it to Newcastle, like Isak. And we can all list off players that have done it to other clubs, like what Isak is doing. Because this happens. It's really not that deep. The big problem is Newcastle have failed miserably in their transfer strategy to recruit 2 strikers. And that has left them with less than 2 weeks of a transfer window where they're having to say to a player that doesn't want to be here and may well have been told he could leave, we fucked up, you can't go. And in that statement, the one thing that jumps out at me is in Newcastle's statement, it says that the terms to let the deal happen have not been met. And I think Newcastle are probably going to say the fee from Liverpool, but I don't think it's anything to do with that. Because if Newcastle had acquired Wizza and Shesko, because they were always going to get Wizza, so let's say Wizza's one, the other one could have been João Pedro, Liam Delap, Ekitike, Shesko, and it probably will be somebody else. I think Newcastle are running out of time. I think they know they're getting Wizza, and they always wanted a second striker. The replacement for Isak, they've messed up. So they're now going, this is an important season, we're in the Champions League, we want to finish in the top 5, so we're better off keeping Isak, even though he's not very happy, he's one of the best strikers in Europe. So
Yeah, I love the way Mark just basically summarized that. That's exactly what jumped out to me as well in terms of the statement that they released yesterday. Newcastle are in a messed up place. They knew this was coming from Isak even before Isak came out publicly to make his intent be known that he wanted to leave Newcastle. I think they saw it coming, and they tried to sign João Pedro. They tried to sign even Liam Delap. They've tried to sign at least 4 or 5 strikers in this window, but because they've been rejected and they've been embarrassed by other teams like Chelsea and United going for their targets, and actually getting them, they're basically trying to punish Isak. That's what I think. You can leave a comment below if you disagree with me, but that's exactly what I agree with what Mark is saying. That's exactly what I think. They're just trying to punish Isak and basically keeping Isak away from Liverpool because they know he's going to improve them. They know that they will lose out on that deal because they still haven't acquired their summer targets. So especially their first, second and third choice. They're having to go for Wissa from Brentford, but is it really their main summer target? No, because they've been rejected by so many other players that they have no other option than to go for any available strikers in the Premier League. Really, so that's why I think they're trying to punish Isak, which is very, very crazy. But yeah, let's kind of listen to what Mark Goldbridge is saying.
Newcastle, I think, are now going, we've messed up. We wanted to bring another striker in. We've not been able to bring them in, so you're staying. And in a way, I sympathise with both. Because if the conversation with Isak has been, once we've got the 2 strikers, you can go, then Isak thinks he's going, Newcastle think he's going, and that's what's going to happen. But Newcastle haven't got that second strike. Well, they haven't even got the first striker in at the moment. They haven't even got Wizard, but they want two strikers. There's less than 2 weeks left in the window, and the chances of them getting those two strikers at the quality they want, to be fair, is slim. I'm sure they could get two strikers. They could get Nicholas Jackson and Wizard. They could get Ramos from PSG. But they were looking at people like Akatike and Shesko. So they're not going to get the two strikers of the quality they wanted. So they may well be going now, well, we've run out of time. We want to keep Isak. Is that fair on a player that would have been gone a month ago if Newcastle could do transfers? Probably not. Is it fair on Newcastle to take two strikers that aren't that good and let Isak go? Probably not. So I can see both sides. But I don't see a victim. And I don't see an offender. I see a situation in an amazing transfer window that has gone very, very wrong for Newcastle and has therefore impacted Isak's exit. It's not as simple as Isak is a traitor, Isak is on strike, Isak is betraying Newcastle Football Club and football. It's just not that. It's never been that. Because we know publicly that Newcastle have been publicly trying to sign multiple strikers all summer and have landed none. And if they just got two of those, Isak would have been gone a month ago. So it's circumstances, and I don't blame Newcastle wanting to buy strikers before they sell Isak. If I'm going to sell a player, I want to get the replacements in first because I'm going to get rinsed if I sell the player first.
Yeah, there you go. Mark Goldbridge has done a good job of just basically summarizing this whole mess, to be honest. They don't want to look embarrassed, even though, in my opinion, they're already absolutely been embarrassed by this whole saga. You know, the fact that Isak had to release a statement yesterday, and then they released a statement just after him, you know, tells me everything I need to know. They have been embarrassed internally by their own player in Isak and externally as well by the other transfer targets that they've been missing out on all summer, which is, you know, it's crazy knowing that they secured Champions League football and everything, you know, so it's insane, man. But yeah, I would definitely love to know where this whole saga ends up. But yeah, let's finish listening to Mark Goldbridge talk about this saga.
I still think he'll end up at Liverpool. I think it's the most logical thing. But I think the big problem is, how do Newcastle find two strikers in 2 weeks? Wizard's doing exactly the same at Brentford as what Isak is doing at Newcastle, by the way. So I don't understand the whole burning the shirts, Isak scum and all that, apart from the fact that we're very tribal as fans, and when a player like Garnacho at Man United walks around in a Villa shirt and is forcing a move to Chelsea by, you know, trying to lower his value, he's a prick. I understand that Newcastle fans will be thinking Isak's a prick. That's fine, but I think it's gone a little bit too far in certain areas, putting all the blame on him, because clearly there is another side to the story. And if Newcastle had been decent at transfers, none of this would have happened. Newcastle's failure to sign strikers is why we're here. And nobody can deny that, because we've watched Newcastle publicly fail on strikers from June to the end of August. The question is, there's always a way back. The question is it worthwhile? He stays for a year. He's not going to stay at Newcastle forever. Look, I'd never say never. He might sign a 10-year contract on 300 grand a week. You know, look at what happened with Gibbs White. But it's hard to see a deal happening now with every passing day that Newcastle don't sign strikers and the transfer deadline day comes. But I still think he will. Get your comments in below. Lots of opinions.
There you go. Mark Goldbridge absolutely covered it, summarized it, and summed it all up perfectly, because this transfer has been ongoing for about over a month now, and it's insane. But yeah, I think eventually Newcastle will get whatever striker targets that they can get their hands on. Young Wissa, it's definitely going to join them, but yeah, they'll probably get another one in as well. Maybe Nicholas Jackson, you know, in the final day of the window, but we'll see how it goes. But I definitely think, regardless of what Newcastle do, you know, even if they just get one striker in Wissa, I think if they get the right offer from Liverpool, you know, maybe 125 million, I think that would do it. Yeah, that would do it. Liverpool are not going to go up to 150. I don't think so. They'll be crazy to do that. But yeah, 120, 25, they'll push it probably to 25, you know, just for the delay or whatever. But yeah, I think it's going to be scary anyway. You know, I think Isak will end up at Liverpool after they've played. After Liverpool have played Newcastle or next week Monday. So I think that's probably the main thing that they're waiting for, just to get it over the line. You know what I mean? Because they don't want Isak to put on a Liverpool shirt and beat them at St James's Park. So yeah, that would be crazy. But yeah, I think that's Mark Goldbridge summed it up perfectly. So yeah, I think that's what I think as well. I agree with him. But yeah, guys, if you like this type of reaction videos, definitely like this video and leave a comment below. Yeah, thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Peace.